Oliva, a soft-spoken black woman in her early 40s, wore a white cardigan over a plain blouse, her natural curls loosely tied back. She carried herself with quiet grace. No flashy jewelry, no designer bag, just dignity. But what she got was suspicion, judgment, and a line that changed everything. "People like you don't usually have this kind of cash. I'm sorry, but we can't just hand out cash to anyone who walks in," Patricia Wilson says, her voice dripping with condescension, as she pushes the black woman's withdrawal slip back across the counter. "Especially not amounts like this." Those words echo through the marble lobby of Pinnacle Financial's flagship branch as a circle of staff forms. One young woman leans over to her colleague, whispering just loud enough to be heard, "Yeah, right. She doesn't even look like she has that kind of money." Laughter ripples through the group as Olivia Carter stands there, dignity intact, but humiliation growing by the second. But what these employees don't know about her is about to change everything about their careers, their lives, and this bank forever. When the woman they thought was not deserving to withdraw her own money reveals who she really is. Olivia didn't come from money or connections. What she had was determination, intelligence, and an unwavering work ethic that propelled her through the ranks of Pinnacle Financial. From teller to loan officer, from branch manager to regional director, Olivia mastered every role she took on. Along the way, she earned her MBA from Stanford, led record-breaking quarters in 3 different divisions, and developed a reputation as the problem solver who could turn around struggling branches. When she reached the C-suite as Chief Operations Officer 5 years ago, many thought she had hit the glass ceiling. They were wrong. 3 months ago, when Pinnacle's CEO announced his retirement, the board of directors found themselves at a crossroads. Despite Olivia's impeccable credentials and 2 decades of loyal service, several board members expressed concerns about her readiness to lead. In private meetings, these concerns seemed to focus less on her qualifications and more on whether major clients would be comfortable with her black skin as the face of the company. After a contentious vote, Olivia Carter became the first Black D woman to lead Pinnacle Financial. Her acceptance speech was gracious but pointed. "I will ensure that every client, every employee, and every community we serve experiences the same level of respect and excellence. No exceptions." Olivia took a seat in the waiting area, ostensibly checking her phone, but actually observing the customer service dynamics unfolding around her. What she witnessed in those first 15 minutes was more revealing than 1,000 customer surveys. White businessman in an expensive suit approached the entrance. Before he even reached the counter, a staff member intercepted him with a smile. "Good morning, sir. How can we help you today?" The man was escorted directly to a desk, bypassing the line entirely. Minutes later, an elderly Asian couple entered. They were directed to take a number and wait. No smile, no warmth, just a pointing finger toward the seating area. A young white woman in casual clothes approached the quick service counter. The teller chatted amicably with her, asking about her weekend plans. Transaction completed in under 2 minutes. Then a Hispanic man in janitor work clothes stepped up to the same counter. Suddenly, there were additional questions, requests for multiple forms of ID, and a suspicious once-over from the teller. His simple check cashing took nearly 10 minutes. Olivia watched this pattern repeat itself 6 more times before she finally approached the counter herself. By then, she had been waiting for 37 minutes, despite the branch being only moderately busy. 3 white customers who arrived after her had already been served. When Olivia finally reached teller Sarah's window, the young woman's smile faltered. "How can I help you?" she asked, her tone noticeably cooler than it had been with the previous "Customer, I'd like to make a withdrawal, please," Olivia said, sliding her ID and withdrawal slip across the counter. "The amount, $115,000. Sarah's eyes widened slightly. She examined Olivia's driver's license, then looked at her face, then back at the license, as if confirming they were indeed the same person. "This is a large amount," she said, her voice rising just enough to catch the attention of her colleague at the next window. "Yes, it is," Olivia replied calmly. "But it's well within the daily limit for my account type." Sarah didn't respond. Instead, she turned and whispered something to Jason, the senior teller at the next station. Jason glanced over, nodded, and then walked over, positioning himself directly behind Sarah so he towered over the counter. "Is there a problem here?" he asked loudly, not directed at Sarah but at Olivia. Heads turned throughout the lobby. Other customers stared. An older woman clutched her purse tighter. Olivia felt the weight of every eye in the place, the silent judgment, the immediate assumption that she must be doing something wrong. With remarkable composure, Olivia placed her bank card on the counter alongside her ID. "No problem at all. I'm simply making a withdrawal from my account." Jason picked up her ID, studying it with exaggerated scrutiny. "We've been seeing some unusual activity on these types of accounts lately," he said, emphasizing these types just enough to make his meaning clear. "We need to be extra careful." "What types of accounts would those be exactly?" Olivia asked, her voice steady. Jason ignored the question. "Sarah, can you pull up the account history, please? Let's see what kind of transaction patterns we're looking at." As Sarah tapped at her keyboard, another staff member drifted over. Michael, according to his name tag, leaned in and whispered something to Jason, not quite quietly enough. "Probably one of those money laundering or check-cashing schemes." Michael didn't even try to hide his contempt as he looked Olivia up and down, taking in her modest clothing and natural hair with a smirk. "We just need to verify the funds are actually yours," he said with false sweetness. "You understand, right? It's for your protection." This humiliation was calculated and deliberate, yet Olivia maintained her dignity, standing straight, voice unwavering. "I understand the need for security. I've provided my identification and bank card. I'm a customer of this bank and have been for many years. I'd like to complete my transaction now, please." That's when Michael called over Patricia Wilson, the branch manager. She strode across the lobby with the confidence of someone who had never been questioned in her life. Her expression was a practiced blend of concern and authority as she approached Olivia. "Ma'am, I understand there's some confusion about your withdrawal request," she said, her tone dripping with condescension. She didn't introduce herself, didn't ask for Olivia's name, just immediately assumed a position of authority over her. "There's no confusion on my part," Olivia replied. "I'm simply trying to access my own money." Patricia's smile didn't reach her eyes. $115,000 is a significant amount of cash. "May I ask what it's for?" This question, one that had not been asked, of a single white customer making large transactions that morning, hung in the air between them. The double standard couldn't have been more blatant if they'd put up a sign. The tension in the air was thick enough to cut with a knife as Patricia Wilson stared down at Olivia, her face a mask of practiced concern that couldn't quite hide the disdain underneath. The bustling bank lobby seemed to quiet around them, as if the very air was holding its breath in anticipation of what would come next. "Mrs. Carter," she said finally, glancing at her ID, her fingers holding it by the edges as if reluctant to touch it too much. "This amount doesn't seem appropriate for someone like you. This bank prides itself on dignity, and we have a class of customers we serve, so we can't serve you here." There it was. The mask had slipped. In those few words, Patricia had revealed exactly what this was about. Not security protocols, Not banking regulations, just pure, unfiltered prejudice dressed up in corporate speak. Olivia felt a familiar tightness in her chest, the same sensation she'd experienced countless times throughout her career. That moment when someone underestimates you, dismisses you, reduces your entire existence to a stereotype. Behind Patricia, the staff exchanged knowing glances. Sarah looked down, seemingly uncomfortable, her hands fidgeting with a stack of deposit slips that didn't need straightening. Her body language screamed discomfort, but her silence made her complicit all the same. Jason and Michael didn't bother hiding their amusement. Michael actually snickered, covering his mouth with his hand in a poor attempt to conceal his laughter. "I'm curious," Michael chimed in, leaning against the counter with newfound confidence now that his boss was backing him up. His voice carried, deliberately, ensuring nearby customers could hear. "Did you come into some money recently? A settlement, perhaps, or maybe an inheritance, or maybe you laundered the money?" The implication was crystal clear. In their minds, there was simply no legitimate way a black woman could have access to this kind of money. It had to be some kind of windfall, some stroke of luck rather than hard work, intelligence, and determination. White young mother with 2 children had paused her transaction at the next window, openly watching the scene unfolding. She pulled her children closer, whispering something in their ears, teaching them perhaps unconsciously to view Olivia as someone suspicious, someone who didn't belong. Olivia took a deep breath. Her composure was remarkable given the circumstances. Not a hint of the rage she must have felt showed on her face. "I'd like to speak with someone who can actually help me complete my transaction, please. Someone with the authority to override whatever concerns you seem to have." Patricia stepped forward, patience clearly exhausted. Her polished leather shoes squeaked slightly on the marble floor as she moved, the sound oddly loud in the tension-filled space. "I'm going to have to ask you to conclude your business elsewhere. You're creating a disturbance in our branch. The lower banks out there will be able to serve you, not here." The irony was staggering. The only disturbance was the staff's treatment of a legitimate customer attempting to access her own funds. But in Patricia's mind, and in the minds of those who shared her biases, Olivia's mere presence, her audacity to expect equal service, was itself the disturbance. Olivia continued her call as if Patricia hadn't spoken. "Yes, I'm still at the downtown branch. No, they've refused the transaction. Yes, that's correct." Her calm was unsettling to Patricia. People in her position, being denied service, being humiliated publicly, were supposed to react in one of 2 ways: explosive anger that would justify removal, or defeated acceptance that would end in retreat. Olivia's composed resistance followed neither script, and it clearly unnerved Patricia. "Ma'am," Patricia's voice rose, the veneer of professionalism cracking further. "If you don't leave the premises immediately, I'll be forced to call security." That's when Olivia turned away from Patricia and spoke her final words into the phone, words that would change everything in the next few moments. "Rebecca, I need you in the downtown branch now." The name hit Patricia like a physical blow. Rebecca, as in Rebecca Morgan, head of operations for the entire bank. Olivia knew her. Olivia had her direct number. A flicker of uncertainty crossed Patricia's face, the first crack in her confident facade. Who was this woman, really? How did she have direct access to one of the most senior executives in the company? The question lingered in her mind for only a moment before her arrogance reasserted itself. Probably just name-dropping, she thought. A bluff. People like her always tried to intimidate with claims of knowing important people. In the headquarters branch, the executive suite of Pinnacle, Financial suddenly burst into activity. Rebecca Morgan stood bolt upright at her desk, her face draining of color as she recognized the voice on the other end of the line and realized who was calling her. Rebecca had worked alongside Olivia for over a decade. They had broken countless glass ceilings together, navigated the treacherous waters of corporate finance as women of color, supported each other through personal and professional challenges. "Get me every customer complaint from the downtown branch for the past year," she barked at her assistant. "Every single one, even the ones that didn't make it into the formal review process." Assistant scattered as she grabbed her tablet and security badge. Her designer heels echoed sharply on the marble floor as she rushed toward the executive elevator, the one that could take her directly to the lobby without stopping. In the adjacent conference room, board members who had been reviewing quarterly projections found themselves suddenly interrupted as security feeds from the downtown branch were pulled up on the main screen. "What's happening?" asked Jonathan Prescott, the chairman of the board, as technicians scrambled to enhance the audio. "You need to see this, sir," replied the head of security, his expression grim. The color drained from Prescott's face as he recognized the woman being mistreated by their staff. That's Olivia Carter," stammered another board member. "That's our CEO." "Yes," the security director confirmed. "And this has apparently been going on for 17 minutes already." On screen, they could see it all unfolding in real time. The board watched in stunned silence as their CEO was treated with contempt in her own bank. "Record everything," Prescott ordered, his voice tight with barely controlled fury. "Every second, every word, and get legal up here immediately." Back in the bank lobby, the temperature seemed to drop several degrees as Patricia began to realize that something was very, very wrong. The confidence drained from her face, replaced by the first flickers of uncertainty. Olivia Carter stood perfectly still, phone now returned to her purse, watching as the realization slowly dawned on Patricia Wilson's face that she might have just made the biggest mistake of her career. Patricia attempted to regain control of the situation, her voice taking on a harder edge as she signaled to the security guard. "Daniel, please escort this woman from the premises. She's becoming disruptive." The young security guard hesitated, clearly uncomfortable with the situation. His gaze flickered between Patricia and Olivia, unsure which authority to respect. "This woman is causing a disturbance," Patricia insisted, her voice rising. "She needs to leave now." Patricia turned to the staff and other customers, her mask of professionalism completely gone now. "This is exactly what I'm talking about," she said loudly. "These people are always trying to game the system. They come in here thinking they know the rules better than we do, looking for any loophole to exploit." The naked prejudice in her voice was unmistakable. Even some of the staff members looked uncomfortable now, sensing that something had gone terribly wrong. "Stop this immediately." Her voice carried the weight of absolute authority. Not a request, not a suggestion, a command that froze everyone in place. Patricia Wilson's expression shifted from irritation to confusion as she recognized the executive. In the 15 years she'd managed this branch, Rebecca Morgan had visited perhaps 3 times, always scheduled weeks in advance, always with a formal agenda. Her unexpected appearance, the fury evident in her stride, triggered the first real flicker of fear in Patricia's eyes. "Ms. Morgan, what an unexpected pleasure. Is there something—" Patricia began, trying to regain her composure. "Do you have any idea who this is?" Rebecca cut her off, gesturing toward Olivia, who remained perfectly composed amidst the chaos. The question hung in the air, heavy with implication. Patricia glanced at Olivia, then back at Rebecca, confusion giving way to the first inklings of dread. "This," Rebecca announced, her voice ringing with authority, "is Olivia Carter, the CEO of Pinnacle Financial, your boss." The words landed like physical blows. Patricia staggered backward as if struck. Michael's hand flew to his mouth. his eyes widening in horror as the realization of what he had done, who he had mocked, sank in. Jason's face drained of all color, his Adam's apple bobbing as he swallowed repeatedly. Sarah began to tremble, visibly tears welling in her eyes. "We've been watching," Rebecca continued, holding up her tablet. On the screen, security footage from throughout the day played in crystal-clear definition. "We've seen how you treated Mrs. Carter, and we've seen how you treat others. Every interaction in this branch is recorded," Rebecca said, her voice tight with controlled fury. "Every single one. And what we've witnessed today is a pattern of discrimination so blatant, so egregious, that it violates not only our company policies, but federal banking regulations." When Olivia finally spoke, her voice was calm, measured, and carried the unmistakable weight of absolute authority. "Patricia, Michael, Jason," she said, addressing each of them in turn, making deliberate eye contact. "You are terminated, effective, immediately. No raised voice, no dramatic gesture, just the simple, incontrovertible exercise of power by someone who had earned the right to wield it. Your actions today have demonstrated that you are fundamentally incompatible with the values of this institution and the legal requirements of fair banking practices," Olivia continued. "This is not a suspension or a performance improvement. Opportunity. This is the end of your employment with Pinnacle Financial." After the terminated employees had been escorted from the building, Olivia addressed the remaining staff. Her voice carried not anger, but resolve, the clear, steady tone of a leader who had identified a problem and was already formulating its solution. "What happened today isn't just about 3 individuals making poor choices," she began, gathering the shell-shocked employees in a semicircle around her. "It's about a culture that allowed those choices to seem acceptable, a culture we are going to transform, starting right now." Sarah, the young teller who had initiated the interaction with Olivia but had shown visible discomfort throughout the ordeal, stood trembling at the edge of the group. When Olivia approached her, tears streamed down the young woman's face. "I'm so sorry," Sarah whispered, voice breaking. "I knew it wasn't right, but I didn't know what to do when Patricia and the others..." Rather than dismissing the apology, Olivia listened intently. Learning to stand up against wrongdoing, even when it comes from authority figures, is one of the hardest skills to develop, Olivia told her, but it's also one of the most valuable. Then, in a move that surprised everyone, Olivia announced, "Sarah, effective immediately, you're being promoted to interim branch manager." The gasps from the staff were audible. Sarah's eyes widened in shock. "But I'm just a..." "You're someone who recognized that what was happening was wrong, even if you didn't have the tools or confidence to stop it," Olivia cut in. "That awareness is the foundation we need to build on." 3 days later, Olivia announced the bank's new Equitable Banking Initiative, a $50 million investment in anti-discrimination training, community outreach, and internal accountability systems. 6 months later, Olivia once again visited branches unannounced. But this time, her purpose wasn't to expose discrimination. It was to witness the changes taking root throughout the organization. As she walked through the parking lot afterward, Olivia paused to look back at the branch, its windows glowing warmly in the evening light. She thought about that simple woman who had walked into this bank 6 months ago, supposedly out of place, supposedly not belonging. That woman had changed not just a branch, not just a bank, but an industry,